Merry Christmas. We have a special Christmas Day panel talking about the naughty and nice list. We'll start off with politics. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, senior writer for the Weekly Standard. Ron Fournier, senior political columnist of National Journal. Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio. And syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Okay, Steve, first is the naughty list when it comes to politics in 2016.
Yeah, the person on my naughty list, at the very top of my naughty list, is actually people, the mainstream media. I think the coverage of President Obama and Hillary Clinton in particular this past year has been abysmal, and I'll use two examples. One, President Obama about a week ago was talking about closing Guantanamo. He said two things that were factually incorrect, clearly, unequivocally wrong, misleading, not true. Virtually no media coverage of the president's misstatements or of the president's lying. Secondly, the Hillary Clinton Benghazi testimony was filled with things that were either incorrect or deliberately misleading. And aside from a couple of reporters who fact-checked her claims, the media basically celebrated the fact that she had won a victory over those mean and evil Republicans.
All right, lump of coal, who do you give it to? Politics.
I feel like you just put a lump of coal in my stocking there as a mainstream media.
I didn't target you. You were one of the exceptions on the Hillary Benghazi
To that point, I'm going to put Hillary Clinton in the give her a lump of coal, but not for subverting the Freedom of Information Act over her emails, not for undermining legislative oversight, not for undermining the whole idea of a historical record, but for lying about it. Let me just talk about that word for a minute. In life and in politics, there's all kinds of gradations of deception. Spinning, white lies, misstating something. You don't use the word lie, at least I was taught in journalism, unless you know the person. Not only did they deceive, but they knowingly deceived. In this case, there's no way that Hillary Clinton does not know that it is wrong when she says what I did was above board and it was allowed. She knows, she must know, that it was not allowed to have a private server taking all of her email off the books. That's a lie.
Okay. Mara, naughty list.
Well, I give a lump of coal to Donald Trump for completely breaking every rule in American politics. Now, some people might think he deserves a cookie for that, but he's completely flummoxed the Republican establishment, and he's injected a lot of demagoguery and a lot of false statements into the race, and he's succeeded at that, but he still gets a lump of coal.
Charles.
My lump of coal goes to the GOP for doing everything it could, in addition to what the media have done, in reviving the Clinton campaign. She was spiraling in the middle of the year, and then she got all the help that she could from Republicans, starting with Kevin McCarthy, with that unbelievable Kinsley gaffe, where he said essentially the Benghazi hearings, which they were not, was about taking her down. The Benghazi hearing themselves, which were completely botched, again with the help of the media, but not conducted in a way that in any way exposed the real truth. And lastly, the insane fighting among the Republicans themselves, led by another coal carrier, Donald Trump, so attacking each other that they left her and Obama out of almost all of their debates. Those words, proper nouns, are missing, and that was a great opportunity, a whole summer and fall, to make the case against her candidacy, not made.
Okay, we had expansive naughty lists. We're going to speed up the nice list. Politics 2016. Steve.
Yeah, so the person at the top of my nice list is Bernie Sanders, actually. Somebody that I don't agree with very often, really don't agree with on anything. But I like the fact that he's run a spirited campaign built on grassroots. He's raised a lot of money because he says the things that he believes. Now, he's saying these things as a socialist, which I think presents interesting questions for the Democrats. But he's making an argument that I think is an authentic argument. It's something that we're missing too much in our politics.
Nice list. Politics.
I would pick two people, Democratic Representative Joe Kennedy III and Republican freshman Elise Stefanik of New York. Gotten to know both of them through the Harvard Institute of Politics, but to me they reflect this rising generation of millennials who generally are very can-do, pragmatic, less ideological, more tolerant than their parents' generation, and the kind of politicians, especially with the radical connectivity of of the internet who could really reform the way we run our campaigns, the way we run our government.
Nice list, 2016.
I put Nikki Haley on the nice list, governor of South Carolina. She's not running for anything, but she did conduct herself with a lot of class. And after the Charleston killings, really tried to bring her state together. And also, recently, she wasn't afraid to speak out against Donald Trump.
Nice list for 2016, Paul.
Bernie Sanders, but for a slightly different reason from Steve, not because of his personal sincerity. After all, he is a guy who honeymooned in the Soviet Union, and as Lindsey Graham said, and never returned, but because he spoke truth in advertising, where the Democratic Party is. Up until now, it was impossible for Democrats to admit their socialist inclinations, always resisted that as a calumny hurled from the right. Now they're running an openly open socialist, and I think what he really is he's speaking what Obama thinks. Obama wanted single payer, but he wouldn't do it. There are all kinds of expansiveness of the government he would like to do, but hasn't had a chance to do because he couldn't. Bernie says what the heart of the Democrats think, and it's good that we finally heard it.
But will Democratic primary voters and caucus goers be nice to Bernie Sanders?
They will not be because they want to win more than anything, but their heart is with Bernie.
On protecting families from reckless big banks, their plan is simply
repeal Dodd-Frank.
And while trickle-down economics has made us all weary, the Republicans offer
The same supply-side economic theory.
Who's right in Whoville? Hillary Clinton's campaign, which you just saw mocking Republicans as Grinches, or Republicans trying to knock down her economic policies. Hi, everybody. I'm David Azen. Welcome to Forbes on Fox. Let's go in focus to find out with Steve Forbes, Rich Karlgaard, Mike Ozanian, Carrie Sheffield, John Tamny, and Bruce Japsen. So, Steve, who's the Grinch here?
Hillary's the real Grinch, and so is her boss. They both deserve lumps of coal for the war against hydrocarbons. They lied to us like naughty little boys and girls about keeping your doctor and keeping your insurance. They've given us higher deductibles and higher medical expenses. They've given us the worst recovery from a sharp downturn in American history with higher taxes, big spending, and wrecking the dollar. So I think that deserves a mammoth lump of coal.
All right, well, Bruce, Ted Cruz also took a page from Dr. Seuss. Let's just play his soundbite on Dr. Seuss and get your reaction.
The whole family will enjoy reading stories like The Grinch, Who Lost Her Emails.
I know just what I'll do, she said with a snicker. I'll use my own server, and no one will be the wiser.
Okay, that was the Cruz children, by the way. What do you think?
Well, I think that one of the parts of the ads Cruz talks about his proven record. His proven record is he's done nothing. But the Republicans only want to steal the packages. They don't want to offer up any replacements, so the poor Whos would just be isolated in Whoville with a big wall around the town.
Well, Mike, the Republicans do have tax-cutting policies, and after all, if you really want to help everyone, as we saw back with the Reagan administration, during their period of tax rate cuts across the board, look what happened. The top 20% did great. They gained 12% in real income, but the bottom 20% also gained about 12% in income. If you want to raise all boats, cut all taxes.
What that showed, David, was that incentives do indeed matter. But as far as Ted Cruz in particular is concerned, he's the only Republican, and he's separating himself from the other Republicans when it comes to spending. He voted against that draconian $1.8 billion tax and spending bill that Rubio didn't even show up for. And that government spending, that's what robs the middle class.
Well, John, he makes a great point, Mike does, about spending. After all, G.W. Bush spent a lot of money. Not as much as President Obama did, but he spent a lot of money, and the GOP just passed this big new spending bill.
Yeah, it's got to be remembered that government is the big prosperity-killing tax, and so we want to shrink it. Now, overall, I'd give Republicans credit. They're seeking tax reform. They want to neuter the Fed a little bit, but they weaken their pro-growth message when they want to make the world's problems our bloody and very expensive ones. They also weaken their growth message when they want to keep out the very immigrants who drive prosperity because they bring ambition into the country.
But, Kerry, here's what bothers me about the Democratic version of Grinch, if you will, is that they talk about the government giving everything, and the Republicans want to take everything. In fact, the government doesn't give anything. The government takes, and then the government redistributes what it takes.
You're right.
They're more like the Grinch than Santa.
You're absolutely right. They don't actually make real Christmas presents. They just steal them from other people and redistribute it. As Margaret Thatcher always said, the problem with socialism is at some point you run out of other people's money. And let's look at the facts. The OECD median income is 42% lower versus American median income. Hillary is the real Grinch. She wants to make America poorer and less prosperous.
Rich, who's the Grinch here?
Oh, my God. Hillary's the Grinch and Obama's the Grinch. Whoville is about $2 trillion short of where it should be because of 8 years, what will end up being 8 years of Obama's 2% growth economy. We should be growing at 3.5. You multiply that times the size of our economy, and that's about $2 trillion that Whoville does not have.
And, Steve, the idea of the government, I want to get back to the idea of the government giving everything. Do the American public get it that the government doesn't give you anything? The government takes, and then the government redistributes what it takes.
Yeah, a lot of people still aren't onto the racket. They take $1 out of your pocket, give you 50 cents back, and you're supposed to be grateful for it. The American people are the producers, as has been pointed out by John and others. Government can take, redistribute, and things like that, but it can't create real resources.
Bruce, you got to agree with that, don't you?
Well, I would say that, in the case of the immigration, we don't have a path to citizenship, and we don't have a legislation
but
from
Bruce,
the
I'm talking about the
that.
government saying, or the Democrats saying that government can give you this, government can give you that, but the government doesn't give anything. It takes, and then it redistributes.
Well, I would just say that, it is what it is. I mean, the Republicans they're not offering any other solutions. They're not offering any solutions.
Hold on. Wait, let him finish. Go ahead, Bruce.
They're not offering any solutions.
Go ahead, Kerry.
Well, it takes from future generations. It takes from my generation. That's what happened.
Well, the immigration bill doesn't do that. The immigration bill doesn't do that because it would make them pay taxes.
One at a time. Go ahead. Talk about immigration, Bruce.
Okay, the immigration bill doesn't do that because it would put these folks on a path to citizenship, and they would pay taxes. They're already earning money here, and then that would help pay down the deficit.
Okay, go ahead, Kerry.
Well, when Barack Obama leaves office, we're going to have $20 trillion in debt. That's more than all presidents combined previous to him. That's taking from my generation. That is such the biggest Grinch in our American history.
Mike, go ahead.
And to your question, David, you said, do the American people get it? They do indeed get it, which is why Ted Cruz is doing very well. He voted against that bill. He's not for robbing our children and grandchildren. Jeb Bush, a big government guy, big spending guy, in bed with the special interests. He's down in the polls. The American people get it.
John, do you agree?
David, you hit it on the head when you made the essential point that government has no resources. It can't possibly generate us because it has nothing to give us that it hasn't taken from us first. The problem is Republicans and Democrats seem to think that they can spend us to prosperity. They're both big spending parties. Let's neuter them both.
Rich, I always come back to you and Silicon Valley. You know it better than anybody that I know. You live there. You know the businesses and the people. Do they get it? Do they understand that they're the ones that create something? It's not the government that does it.
Well, they don't have a lot of political sophistication out here, despite there being geniuses in math and software and stuff like that. They're very libertarian on economic growth, but they support Democrats. Who knows why?
And, Steve, it's the same out here on the East Coast. I mean, you have Wall Street, a large section of Wall Street supporting Hillary, even though she supports all these rules and regulations.
Yeah, it's hoping that if you pay the wolf won't eat you. But the wolf has an endless appetite, and those sheeps are going to get eaten. Lamb chops coming up.
Bruce, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I will give Ted Cruz a Christmas present. I'm headed to the Rose Bowl with about the entire state of Iowa next week. And I would say that
you're going to lose,
will beat Trump by Cruz will beat Trump by 10 points.
Okay. You're as wrong on that as you are on economics.
It's easy to talk politics here, but it's very difficult to talk sports because we really begin to go at people's throats. But John Tamny, finally, I'm just wondering whether the government is going to change. What is your prediction for 2016? Are we going to change? Are we going to go back to more sensible policy?
I think we are simply because the electorate no longer trusts Republicans or Democrats. They voted gridlock, and as a result, Washington's doing a lot less. There's lots of conflict in Washington right now, and that's beautiful.
Okay, that's got to be the last word. That's a positive note to end.